A patient is a person. Every doctor is too. Those are the principles behind a unique buddy program at Northwestern's Feinberg School of Medicine. It pairs medical students with Alzheimer's patients and offers a chance to build friendships as buddies, stepping outside the clinical setting and into restaurants, museums, and sporting events. The future physicians learn firsthand about the challenges that face those living with the disease, while the patients learn that doctors, even future doctors, are people too. It's Buddy Match Day at Northwestern University's Feinberg School of Medicine.
One more smile, and the big smile, come on.
Great, thank you. Now in its 12th year, the Buddy program pairs first-year medical students with patients in the early stages of Alzheimer's disease and related conditions.
The person with Alzheimer's disease can be put into a position of mentoring, of teaching, of showing.
In a way, it's really an intergenerational exchange program. So we have junior buddies and we have senior buddies. And the junior buddies also call themselves medical students.
I
just wanted to see how things are going with your forms.
asking me my dimensions.
Well, you have such wonderful stories, Richard. I'm sure it's hard to keep on track.
Usually, medical students learn about diseases through books in classrooms. This program is going to be very different. The junior buddies are going to have a chance to learn about memory difficulties, Alzheimer's disease, related conditions through personal contact. And in return for that, they are going to get companionship, and they will return the companionship. And the goal here is really to have life enrichment experience.
The first step is getting to know each other.
A person with Alzheimer's disease, in the very earliest stages, you can have a wonderful relationship and develop a wonderful friendship with them. Esther made it very clear before she was matched with her buddy that she wanted someone who was not familiar with Chicago because she wanted to show them around.
I'm adventurous.
Okay, that's good.
I love to travel. I love to read. Does that count? Does reading count?
How would we say that? You are well-read.
I was in the Navy, and I was a landing boat coxswain. Did my pilot delivery. You know, the boats that hit the beach and the ramp goes down and troops go on. Well, there were two of them. The small one was plywood. It was 35 foot. It was made by a man named Higgins. That was made in California.
It doesn't take long for most buddies to form a bond.
The one thing that a lot of people don't know about him is that his wife is a gourmet cook, so he's very well fed.
He has 4 daughters. He's blessed with 8 grandchildren. And then he has one living, an older living brother who's currently 92 years old. He graduated from Northwestern Medical School and then proceeded to go into orthopedics.
3 words that other people would use to describe Esther are probably adventurous, entertaining, and well-read. And then we'll likely walk around Chicago, go to museums, and visit some restaurants too. So,
Awesome.
Buddies Amar Oza and Esther Levine started with a trip to Chicago's Field Museum.
Esther's love of Chicago has really rubbed off on me, and we really hit it off right at the beginning, just talking about Chicago.
Oh, I just think it's fun. I mean, especially if they're from out of town, and that's really fun because I like to share what's going on in the city.
Yeah,
I think it's good because it's, we're still people, and my challenge is to stay as normal, whatever that means, as possible, and as independent as possible, because to me that's what it's all about.
What is better for you? Esther's really just inspired me because of the optimism and the enthusiasm with which she lives every day. For all the things that you can choose. The purpose of this program was to give a person an experience with Alzheimer's disease or some other type of dementia it's not really been about that for me. It's been more about Esther as a person. It's been more about knowing her and understanding her and developing a relationship with her than it is dealing with a disease, which is not how I look at Esther, which is nothing. It's not how Esther's defined. It's just something else entirely. But
It's part of life.
it's a part of life. Yeah. Really cool.
Future doctors, forming friendships with seniors, learning firsthand about a devastating disease, and making memories along the way.
Yeah, all of these, even the little hand.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the 25th Annual Alzheimer Day Quality of Life Symposium. Thank you for joining us to mark the Buddy Program's 25-year history. The Buddy Program, as you just saw, pairs first-year medical students with persons living with dementia for an academic year. The effects of this connection can last much longer. It all started when Dr. Marcel Mesulin walked up to me in the clinic one day in 1996. "I've just diagnosed a Northwestern physician with Alzheimer's disease," he said. "He is unable to practice medicine anymore, but he would make a wonderful mentor to a medical student. Perhaps we can reach out to the medical school to buddy him up with someone." What a great idea, I thought. And Northwestern Medical School thought so too. In the following fall of 1997, the Buddy Program was launched with 11 students and mentors. The physician who inspired Dr. Mesulin that day in 1996 was Dr. George Simonian. Dr. Simonian graduated Phi Beta Kappa from right here at Northwestern University in 1941 and from Northwestern Medical School in 1944. Dr. Simonian was a well-known and highly respected general surgeon and practiced medicine for 36 years in Waukegan, Illinois, where he was the first doctor to be certified by the American Board of Surgery. Dr. Simonian was married to his wife, Sheila, for many years and had 4 children. He retired from medicine in 1987, and he passed away from Alzheimer's disease in 2001. Dr. Simonian will be remembered for being the inspiration for a program that has transformed many medical students' understanding of what it's like to live with Alzheimer's. Thank you, Dr. Simonian. And thank you, Dr. Mesulin, for this brilliant idea to position the person living with cognitive challenges as a mentor to a medical student, to focus on strengths and abilities, on the importance of connection and contribution, and the lifelong desire for purpose and meaning. I would like to welcome Dr. Mesulin to the podium to say a few words.
Thank you, Darby. Darby gives me the credit, but I don't deserve the credit at all. That, if I were to list the number of brilliant ideas I have every day, there would be books full of it, but it doesn't work because you need someone to take and run with it and make something out of it. And that's what Darby did for 25 years. So all the credit belongs to her. And thank you, Darby. It was 1996, and believe it or not, I remember my encounter with Dr. Simonian in my office. So I examined him, and it was clear that he tried very hard, but that he had a lot of difficulty remembering things that happened the day before or in the recent past. And then I asked him to describe to me how he would do an appendectomy. And suddenly, he came up with more detail than I ever learned in medical school. And at that time, I realized that here was an interesting issue, that could we find a way to sort of circumvent the memory loss by having someone with him to act as the memory, while that person would learn about appendectomy. But then who in the world would like to learn about appendectomy other than a medical student? So that's how the pairing came. But I remember also one thing there. I had just recently come to Chicago at that time, and I asked him where he lived, and he said Waukegan. Now, I had never heard of Waukegan. And, when you test people with memory loss, you have to take all answers with a grain of salt. So I actually had to look up to see if Waukegan was anywhere on the map. And so it turned out that it very much was. And that's how Dr. Simonian became the founder of this program.
And I'm so pleased that Mrs. Simonian and her daughter Lisa were able to be here and to join us for this and to honor your husband. So thank you so much. And I'm going to thank you, Lauren. So over these 25 years, 314 persons living with dementia have been paired with first-year medical students. And sometimes we've had pre- and postdocs and research assistants who have also participated in the program. Over the years, we've added a research component to better understand the impact of the program on both the medical student and the person living with dementia or the mentor. Over the years, my team and I got better at matching. However, as I was reflecting over the past 25 years in preparation for today, and particularly from those early years, there was one pair who kept coming to mind. Karen is a first-year medical student whom I paired with Peter, one of the mentors that year. Karen's journal entries about her experience getting to know Peter were particularly thoughtful and insightful. And in turn, Peter reached out to me often during the year to let me know how much he was enjoying getting to know Karen and what a meaningful experience this was for him. So I reached out to Peter's wife a few months ago, and I am delighted that she can be with us today. Peter's wife is Northwestern's very own Dr. Patricia Spear, Professor Emeritus of Microbiology and Immunology. At a time when women were rarely leaders of research groups, Dr. Spear was able to establish a well-funded research program at both the University of Chicago and Northwestern. Her portrait graces this room. Thank you, Pat, for being here today. It's wonderful to have you here to reflect on Peter's involvement in the Buddy program and his friendship with Karen. And I know you're now retired and living in your home in Florida, and so I'm so glad that you made the trip here. So please join me here. And I also reached out to Karen a few months ago, and I'm delighted that she can be with us today. It's wonderful to see you. So let me just introduce you to Karen. Karen is now Dr. Karen Larson-Pollock. She lives in Seattle, and she is the Chief Quality Officer of the Puget Sound region. You have your MD and MBA from Northwestern University, and you have excelled in executive roles, serving as the Vice President of Operations at Houston Methodist Hospital in Texas before returning home with your husband and 2 children in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. So thank you, Karen, so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you.
So before Pat and Karin engage in conversation, I would like to tell everyone a little bit about Peter. So Dr. Peter Meyer was a distinguished astrophysicist and director of the Enrico Fermi Institute at the University of Chicago, where he was professor and chair of the physics department, and it's where Peter and Pat met. So Karin and Peter had a very special relationship that I appreciate both of you being here to talk about, and it's a very open-ended question for you both. Pat and Karin, what would you like to share about this buddy program experience from your perspectives?
Hi, Karin. Is this on? Yeah.
Hi, Pat. Yep, you're on.
I'll start if I may. This is what the buddy program meant to me, having an additional person, a very important person in you, to be able to interact with Peter, to have conversations with Peter, because the circle of people that were willing or able to sit down and talk with him was growing gradually smaller as it happens. People don't understand that, didn't understand that Peter, for example, loved good conversation, even if some of it seemed a little wonky. He loved good conversation, and I know he enjoyed very much talking with you.
Yeah, I love it. Apologies to everyone. I wish I could be there in person, but I'm actually down with COVID. So I apologize if my voice sounds pretty rough. It's been a rough couple of days, but it's, I think, a testament to the fact of how important this program was to me, that at least I'm able to beam in. Yeah, Pat, I agree. For me, it was, we had wonderful conversations. It was such an amazing way to go beyond the diagnoses. You get all of the science, and I was nodding my head as I watched that video. You get all the science in med school, but the person behind the diagnosis is sometimes gets lost. And so the ability to be able to be a part of their lives for actually 4 years, right, Pat? We did it the first year.
That's right. Karin carried on. Yeah.
We did. We kept going for second year, and then third and fourth during clinicals, I would come down and see him whenever I could. And so we just had this amazing connection, which for me was just incredibly important from a personal perspective, but also a professional perspective.
So I don't know if there's anything else you would like to know about those interactions. I, as a matter of fact, have still, of course, stayed out of it. I wasn't involved in your conversation, so I don't really know what you talked about. So maybe you could enlighten me.
Yeah, no, I was laughing at the talk about the appendectomy. So funnily enough, I really like physics. So even though Peter wasn't medicine by background, he loved physics. So we would, we would have many conversations about physics. I specifically remember one of our earlier ones was around bat sonar because I had been in the Peace Corps, and I was telling him a story about how the bats came into my house, but yet they didn't run into anything. And told me all about bat sonar, and that actually tended to be a joke with us for the next 3 years. So we would get little bat icons for each other. We talked about Germany. I had spent time in Austria and Germany, and he was German, and so we started out trying to talk in German, but my German had become quite terrible. So we talked a lot about Germany. We talked a lot about current events. He was really, really well read and very much up to date on current events. So we talked a lot about news, and then just talked about just us as people. And I know the first year, Pat, I think I was down there, gosh, I think it was weekly, right? We would do weekly lunches.
Yes.
Yeah, and then second year we do bi-weekly, and then I went to their cabin. I remember you invited me there. So It became much beyond the program. It just became just a friendship between us, and just an important part of my life. So yeah, but a lot of our conversations were just went in different areas that both of us were very happy to go to. But it was remarkably fun.
Yeah, and it was so gratifying, Karin, for you to tell me just what a wonderful match we had made, that you were just so enthralled with that program.
You
it was
did
the
good
second
there.
year of the program, and I was just a little nervous about it. But thank you so much, Karen, for being here. Thank you, Pat. I do want to just, so, you know, as I was poring over some journals that you wrote during your time with Peter, and with your permission, I would just like to read one quote that I've actually used quite a bit. I wondered if I would be able to handle such a commitment, but it has been so worthwhile that I can imagine not being a part of this. I think that as doctors, it may be easy to have the disease state overshadow everything else and forget the reality of a disease as it affects the patient's life and the lives of their loved ones. I truly believe that a program like this has enabled me to see the other side of the diagnosis and will only enhance my ability to practice later on. So again, thank you, Karen, for being here and being part of this program. And I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Yes,
No,
please, get well.
Thank you, everyone.
And Pat. I would like to introduce you to a remarkable mentor who's been in the program for several years now. Mr. Jim Butler and his wife Lisa have traveled from their home in Michigan to be with us today. Jim is a retired healthcare professional and real estate developer who, after being diagnosed with Alzheimer's, has been open about sharing his story and has very generously agreed to be a mentor. This is now his 4th year. 2 of his buddies are here today. His first buddy, Sebastian Otto Meyer, who is a resident now at Lurie Children's, and Brooke Gleason, who's a first-year medical student in the buddy program this year. So thank you all for joining us today and to share your experience. And Jim, I know that you've prepared some remarks, and Lisa too. So if you would all, Jim, Lisa, Brooke, and Sebastian, join us here. Great.
Yes. Hi. Again, I'm Jim Butler. I was diagnosed here at Northwestern Mucilum Center almost 7 years ago. When I first got diagnosed, I must admit I was very much lost. After a few months, Northwestern reached out and suggested that Northwestern reached out to me and asked me to come on in and discuss my diagnosis. That's when I learned all about the wonderful programs. Improv first, and some of our folks were here doing that for me back then. I was referred to a cognitive therapist where I could find out what my future looked like. I've been in this program 4 years. At first, I really didn't know what to expect. Why would a young person want to hang out with someone with this diagnosis? Did they get credits for it, perhaps? I learned early on that those individuals were in this program because they cared about learning to be good doctors and wanting to learn from someone who had this diagnosis. My first buddy was Sebastian, right over here. We shared our stories, who and when we were, and where we were at. He asked me a lot of questions and generally interested in who I was. We got together over the years, had dinners, went to movies, over that year, I should say, went to movies, walked around the city, and just had a real good time with each other. When the buddy program ended, we kept in touch. In fact, 40 years later, Sebastian is going to be married next Friday and asked my wife to marry them. How great is that? Thanks, Sebastian, for all you've done. My second buddy was a young man named Nico Lanzetti. Fortunately, it was at the start of the pandemic and we were all getting used to Zoom. I never had an opportunity to meet Nico in person. He was an inquisitive young man. I believe he ended up going into medical research. Raj, my next buddy, during the pandemic. We didn't have the opportunity to meet in person for quite a while, but we started the infamous Zoom calls. I finally figured out how to get on them, and we spent a lot of time together with each other. We connected instantly, and many times during our conversations, my wife would come and say, "Jim, you got to get off the call. We're having dinner, butt up." And, we laughed a lot and asked a lot of questions and got to know each other very well. I finally got to meet him, and he's wonderful, and as I expected him to be. And now we come current buddy program. Brooke, who's right here with us this afternoon, or this evening, I guess. I never had a woman as a buddy, and I asked my wife to engage more, as she had previous buddies. But it became apparent immediately that it didn't matter that she was a young woman. We met for lunch for a few weeks ago, and she is interested in my story and the previous buddy and my experiences with the previous buddies. Brooke is a wonderful buddy. She is compassionate, sweet, has a great spirit, and is a delight to spend time with. So here I am, 4 years later, and being in the buddy program, which has brought me so much joy, more joy than I ever would have imagined. I am 73 years old with Alzheimer's diagnosis, and I have these smart, earnest, delightful young people wanting to spend time with me. I am amazed at all their dedication to the program and also for being so honest and forthcoming. I am so impressed that we will have I am so impressed that we'll have little time that they have invested in me as much as they have. I don't want to thank you. I only want to thank you all for being here today and with these experiences I have had with each and every one of you. Also, I want to thank Darby Morehart, who all those involved in this tremendous program. Being here at Northwestern has helped me continue to live my life and be involved. I am forever grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for your dedication to this program. Thanks so much. Lisa, I know that you have a few remarks you'd like to.
Hi. I'm Lisa, the wife. And since I helped Jim write his talk, he kind of said it all. From my perspective, though, as one who was looking in, this has been a wonderful, wonderful experience for Jim, and I have also benefited from it. I have been so impressed with the commitment of the buddies to this program. Here they are in the beginning of med school and volunteering in a program that is all about Alzheimer's. As I have been on this journey with Jim for the past 7 years, I know that people with this diagnosis are still living their lives and being active members of society. But did I know this when he got his diagnosis? I didn't. So I've often wondered what they thought they were getting involved in. This has just been one of the many things that has been provided to us by Northwestern, and I strongly believe that this has helped Jim in many ways. He's met new people, he laughs, he shares his story, and he also meets with other people with his diagnosis. So I think what I want to impart to all of you and anyone that is going through this journey, that this is an amazing program that has brought so much joy into our lives. And we hope that we have shown that just because you get a diagnosis such as Alzheimer's doesn't mean you're quite done. And the fact that Jim's buddies are still in his life and here, I think it's a tribute to them, to the program, and if I could, brag to Jim. I can't thank Northwestern Center enough for this program and all the support they've provided us. It's not an easy thing to live with this disease, but through the support of everyone, we continue to live our lives fully and count every day as a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Sebastian and Brooke, I'd love for you to reflect on your time in the program a bit for us.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. Yeah, this is a way bigger crowd than I ever have spoken in front of. So. You might not think you all are scary individually, but together, it's scary. And I apologize to Brooke for having to hold this microphone after me. But I entered the buddy program, I think, just because the concept sounded interesting, and I think that what I kind of had an inkling of then, and what I know now after my first year of residency, is that way too often it's really convenient to think of a patient as a diagnosis. So I'm in pediatrics, so the 5-year-old with lymphoma. You sometimes don't even worry about a name because it's not necessarily relevant to your day-to-day. But it is important to think past that and to understand what they're going through on a daily basis. It's important not only to their mental health and their belief that you're invested in them, but also it's important for you to be able to properly help. So being able to have the opportunity to see what a diagnosis is beyond that little brief window that you get when you see a patient for 15 minutes when you're rounding, or 20 minutes in an office, is important. And I think this is an invaluable experience for medical students. I will say that once I joined the program, I quickly forgot about all that because I just enjoyed hanging out with Jim. And while that all sounds very good, and I think that it's important that medical students get the ability to see behind a diagnosis, I think that what I got out of it most was just a friend who I hope to continue to see for forever, and really glad I entered the buddy program that day. One of the best choices I made in medical school.
I'm Brooke. I echo what Sebastian said. It's a little nervous being down here when I'm used to being up there as a medical student. But this has been such, is it not closer? This has been such a great, thank you, great experience for me during my first year. It's been such a pleasure to get to know Jim and Lisa. And honestly, getting a meal with them or hopping on a Zoom call is the highlight of my day. It's so much fun and a much needed study break. I originally joined the program because my grandma had Alzheimer's years ago, and I thought she would have loved a program like this. And so it's been such a pleasure of mine to be able to participate and get to know Jim better. We have such fun time talking about all of his travels, his different occupations, his family, what he enjoys doing for fun. And honestly, I echo what Sebastian said about just getting to know him as a person and kind of forgetting about the diagnosis when you're talking to him. It's definitely something I will carry forward with me in my career, is getting to know patients as person foremost, and really getting to know them better on a deeper level. So thanks for having me, and I'm so glad I've been able to be a part of this program.
Thank you all for being here today. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Lisa.
Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darby.
This program has been supported and sustained by the Glenn and Wendy Miller Family Foundation for the past 14 years. I met Wendy years before then, when she invited me to work with her on a very successful caregiver conference in honor of her mother, who lived with Alzheimer's and for whom she cared. Wendy kindly asked how she could be helpful in my work, and I told her about the buddy program and my interest in spreading the word so that other medical schools would have the opportunity to emulate it. Wendy, along with her husband Glenn and their daughter Lauren, embraced the spirit of the buddy program. Their support of the buddy program has grown over the years, and they were instrumental in our ability to engage 15 different universities in replicating the program. It is this year that we have named the Glenn and Wendy Miller Family Buddy Program in honor of their generous support. I am so glad that you are with us here today, and I'm sorry that Lauren is not able to join. Glenn and Wendy, I want to present you this gift with my heartfelt thanks. Thank you so much.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's go to the mic.
I know that Glenn and Wendy have some remarks to say. Thank you.
My name is Wendy Miller. My husband Glenn and I have been together since we were both 14 years old. Glenn came home from work one day in 2007 and told me he had gotten a large bonus and had decided to put the money into a foundation, the Glenn and Wendy Miller Family Foundation, and make me the chairwoman of the giveaway committee. My mother suffered from Alzheimer's for 17 years before she finally passed away from the consequences of that dreaded disease. I had been her primary caregiver for all those years, and after she died, I decided to support caregivers in any way I could. With my friends at the Alzheimer's Association, I ran an annual caregivers conference for 5 years, often attended by over 500 people. That's where I met Darby Moorhart, and we became instant friends. When Darby first told Glenn and me about the Buddy program, we decided our foundation should support that program and the Mechelen Center, and we have ever since. Darby has been a wonderful friend to me all these years, but more important, she has been a wonderful friend to many victims of Alzheimer's and their families. The Buddy program is just one example of Darby's creative and innovative approach to addressing the challenges of Alzheimer's. It is our pleasure to be able to support Darby, the Mechelen Center, and the important and far-reaching Buddy program. The concept of exposing young and upcoming doctors to Alzheimer's patients and their families has long-range benefit for the doctors, the patients, and the patient's family. With the increasing numbers of individuals living longer, we know that Alzheimer's will increasingly affect our world. Thanks to Darby, future doctors will be better prepared to help address the challenges of this dreaded disease, and we are very pleased that the Buddy program has been implemented in more than 15 medical schools, and that the Buddy program community has grown exponentially. We are very proud to be associated with the Buddy program and with Darby and Marcel and with the Mechelen Center. Thank you.
From dementia, and it's a very emotional thing for us and my family. But this experience today has been overwhelming to me. This is the first time we've been to this symposium, and it is a magnificent sign of the strength of the Mechelen Center and of Darby and her team of, I think there's some 70 people in the Mechelen Center today. And as a result, Darby, I'd like to increase our support for your organization this year and next year. We'll talk about that after this is over. But this is very, very important to my wife and I, and to my daughter Lauren, who has stepped into her role like her mother stepped into her role for her mother. My daughter Lauren has done that for her mother. And she is a sign, a rock of strength for me, and she can't be here today. She went to Rochester with our granddaughter, who's competing in the national gymnastics competition, which is far more important than anything else we're doing. And we weren't invited, so we're here. Teenagers, it's the way they are. But it is our pleasure to be here and to see all the people here who are affected by this program and benefit from it. And to Marcel and Darby and their team, our hats are off to you for the phenomenal work you do and the dedication you have committed to all of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Glenn and Wendy, for such a special light that you give to this work and for your dear friendship. Thank you.
The social work staff at Northwestern let me know that there were a lot of opportunities that would help me with my Alzheimer's problems. I would try out anything they suggested I do because all the stuff that I did was helpful. And so they said, why don't you try the buddy program? I said, I ought to do this too.
Good to see you.
The program keeps my mind sharp. The interactions that I have with the buddies are sometimes kind of challenging. They come up with things that I've never thought of before or haven't thought of in a long time. And then I have to get my brain going to get to a point where I can talk to them in a knowledgeable fashion.
That makes me curious, like, what kind of person were you when you were a teenager?
So I was a serious troublemaker, according to my parents.
During my sophomore year in high school, my grandfather got diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and that really sparked my interest in various neurodegenerative diseases, and I wanted to get more exposure in the clinical side because I didn't know how it actually affects people in their everyday life. One of the elderly care facilities that I volunteered at, they had a special unit for Alzheimer patients. It really opened me up to the clinical aspect of how the disease affects these patients. I realized that this was something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. When I learned about the buddy program, I was very thrilled. Even though the program is really meant for the buddies to work with medical students and share their life experiences, I feel like I learn more than he does. And it's been a very rewarding and grateful experience for me. When I met Ben, I was pleasantly surprised. He's just full of knowledge. We talk about various topics from like our hobbies to very deep subjects like how he thinks his disease is going to play out in his life.
I think anything that challenges Ben to interact with a person he doesn't know, anything that keeps Ben interested in what's going on around him, I think it's just great. And I think Ben helps them.
Ultimately, through the buddy program, I am learning how to be more sensitive in the way I communicate and interact with patients with cognitive impairment, and it has taught me to be more humble, to be more patient, and I'm hoping that the skills that I learned from this program will enable me to be a more compassionate doctor in the future.
Hi everyone, my name is Melanie and I'm a first-year medical student in the buddy program, and that's how I met Joe, my awesome buddy. And Kim, his wife. I can't forget. They graciously welcomed me into their family, which I'm super thankful for because I don't have any family here in Chicago. And through this experience, we've bonded over many coffees, breakfasts, and we came together through a love of music. I'd like to commend Darby again for this matchmaking process, because it turns out Joe and I have so much in common. We're both in the MD PhD program. Well, he finished it longer before I did.
I was in prison for a lot longer.
I am in the MD PhD program here, and we both found out that we're musicians, and he plays a lot more instruments than I do, but we couldn't find a piece for bagpipes, unfortunately. So we're playing this trio for flute, oboe, and piano. We hope you enjoy.
Here we are again. And we were undergrads at Northwestern, but we didn't get the MDs here. We had to go some other place.
I just want to say it's been so much fun rehearsing with them for the past couple weeks, months now. I've lost track. Time flies.
We will adopt you if you want, okay?
Can't wait.
Okay.
All right. So we have 4 more dances for you. Enjoy. One thing I'd like to say before we play the last dance for the day is that if you look at the title of this piece, this was written originally by Shostakovich for 2 violins and a piano. One of the fun things that we did was I rewrote this for flute, oboe, and piano. So, music and neuroscience double major in undergrad, so I'm finally putting that music degree to good use. I'm so glad I get to keep up the music in medical school. It truly is a blessing.
Joe and Melanie and Kim. Thank you so much. This couldn't have been a better way to close this program today. So thank you so much for your beautiful music. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being in the Buddy program. Yes. So thank you. Thank you. And thank thank you all for joining us today, and look forward to seeing you next year.
And before we close, I do have one more moment of your time. I would like to just take one more moment to say thank you to Darby Moorhart. Like Dr. Mesulem said, not everybody who is given a great idea runs with it, and you have run with it for 25 years and counting. I hope after today's celebration, you all can see what a unique and empowering program Darby has brought to life. A program that has opened minds to the contributions that people with Alzheimer's disease and other dementias can continue to make contributions in which they can continue to build upon the strengths that they have. On behalf of the Mesulem Center, the 314 buddy program mentors, their families, and the medical student buddies who entered into this unique experience with an open mind and heart, we say thank you. Thank you. One more sentence. Thank you for 25 years of your enduring commitment to the buddy program and the hope it instills, the compassion it inspires, and the friendships it creates.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.